Hello, my friends. Welcome to Keswick Chapel at True. I'm Pastor Robert. This is day 2 of week 23 as we continue looking at the way of Jesus is the way of sending this week from Mark chapter 6, verses 1 through 13. Today we're going to be looking at the way of Jesus is the way of faith in Him, and we're looking at verses 2 through 4. And unfortunately, we see in this passage here a bias by the people in His hometown, and it becomes a stumbling block to them. Let's look at these verses here real quick together. When the Sabbath came, He began to teach in the synagogue, and many who heard Him were amazed. Where did this man get these things? They asked. What's this wisdom that has been given to Him? What are these remarkable miracles He is performing? Isn't this the carpenter? Isn't this Mary's son and the brother of James, Joseph, Judas, and Simon? Aren't his sisters here with us? And they took offense at Him. Jesus said to them, a prophet is not without honor except in his own town, among his relatives, and in his own home. So, do you see the presumption here? That Jesus grew up here, so they knew everything about Him. They knew He wasn't anything special. The neighbors knew His family. They knew their background, the history. And so because of it, they struggled to accept that Jesus was able to do these things, that Jesus had the ability given to Him by God to do these things. Are we any different today, really? With those that we know well, are we really any different? Are we willing to set aside the history that we know? Are we willing to look beyond what we know about their family? Are we willing to look beyond any perceived notions that we have about them? Clearly, this was at work for Jesus in His own hometown, and it's typically at work for us today. Now, why are there reasons that maybe you struggled in your walk as a Christian or even coming to faith as a Christian? Well, let's look at a list here. Maybe you were hurt by a Christian. How about disappointments with God because bad things happen to good people? Or the difficulties of this life. God should make things easier. Distractions. We've talked about how everyday life can keep us from developing our faith in Jesus. And I love this quote. I don't know where it came from, but distraction from faith leads to the destruction of faith. How accurate is that? It's dead on the money. How about discouragement? Maybe you placed your faith in God for something and it didn't seem to yield the results. Specifically, it didn't seem to yield the results that we were looking for. How about doubt? That little kernel that exists that keeps us from giving ourselves fully to following Jesus Christ. What about drift or distance? Distance where we pull back because things didn't work actually may have started as drift because we didn't intentionally put ourselves into a pattern of growth. We didn't intentionally put ourselves into position to grow our faith, so we drift. How about deceit? Remember we talked about this? The enemy of our souls is set out to deceive us, which is all the more reason why we should be pouring ourselves into the gospel, learning and reading and pursuing God's truth so that we can see the deceitfulness of the deceiver. Faith is a grace-enabled choice. Let me say it again. Faith is a grace-enabled choice. When we choose to believe, grace moves in to help us in our belief. Faith is the way of Jesus, and He wants us to have faith in Him. Choose Jesus and see what He can do in and through you. It all begins with a choice. It all begins with making that decision. Go back and read verses 1 through 6 today. And again, observe the objections of those in his hometown. And ask yourself a couple of questions. First is this: am I guilty of doubting because of any of the same thoughts that I've had that those in his hometown had? How about this one? Have I allowed my previous experience with other Christians to negatively impact my choice to choose Jesus? My friends, I pray that as you read and chew on God's word today, that you'll have eyes to see and ears to hear his truth, that you'll have a receptive heart and mind to receive these truths, that you may grow in grace. I pray that you'll ask yourself one final question: am I choosing the way of Jesus, or am I choosing my own way? Go in the peace of God, my friends. Have a blessed day. Bye for now.